If you don't know who Kirby is, and there's absolutely no way that's possible because everyone should know who Kirby is, he's a pink squishy inflatable video game character with much success behind him, including a highly rated video game series, TV show, manga, merch, and even a cafe. But just where did Kirby come from? Obviously being a Nintendo IP, but what do Kirby's beginnings look like? The story of Kirby traces all the way back to the early 90s when a young Masahiro Sakurai of HAL Laboratory had been tasked to make a video game that was easy enough for anyone to pick up and play. And what game would have been easier than a simple side-scrolling platformer where you get to attack enemies and the ability to fly? With the thought of having a flying character though, designers at HAL Laboratory decided this character would be able to puff up like a balloon, in the sense that it would have to inhale air in order to gain lift, and that's when the idea hit. Wouldn't it be fun then if he could inhale enemies at the same time? Thus, Kirby's basic functions were born. But having an idea of gameplay has to be a lot easier than actually designing a character that is made to stand the test of time, right? Well, at the time, the designers of the game simply used a blob as an easy testing character that would soon be replaced once an actual character was thought up. The only issue with this is that the designers actually began liking the little blob they had been using. And as Satoru Iwata states in an interview, when someone really loves a character, they like to sketch them in their notebooks. That's why we gave Kirby a simple circular design, so anyone could draw him. Yet, this little blob was still struggling to find its identity. Originally, this blob character was given the name Popopo, with the game's title being Twinkle Popopo. But after some consulting with Nintendo, they decided to go with the name suggested by Nintendo of America, Kirby, something a North American audience could possibly understand a bit more. And the name Gasper came in a close second next to Kirby, so yeah. With Kirby's Dream Land being released on the original Game Boy, there was no color displayed for him. The Game Boy had a monochromatic screen that would only display 4 shades of green. This led everyone to believe that Kirby was to be an ominous shade of white. That is, everyone except the creator. Masahiro Sakurai was the only one that had always thought of Kirby to have a pink shade to him. When the American version of Kirby's Dream Land was released, the cover art did show Kirby to have the white tint thought of by the other designers. Heck, even Shigeru Miyamoto even thought that Kirby was going to be yellow, such as Pac-Man or Nubo. When they all saw Kirby being pink, it gave new life to him and felt very fresh. Kirby's Dream Land would release on the Game Boy in Japan on July 27, 1992 and August 1st in North America. The game would sell more than 1 million units within its first year and would receive generally positive reviews. A few Nintendo Power editors would share their opinions stating that despite Kirby's appearance being geared toward a younger audience, with the use of Kirby's inhaling ability and simple controls, this is an excellent game that offers a bit of challenge to the more experienced players as well. But this isn't where the story ends, and Kirby still had one more feature that was going to make him an icon. When asked to port the Game Boy title to the NES, Sakurai thought to himself that it'd be a better idea to create an entirely new game for Kirby. With the NES being a much more powerful system and having a much more experienced player base, it allowed Sakurai and the team to hopefully create a much more difficult game with loads of new features. Kirby was given the ability to run, slide attack, and probably one of the most important functions of the game, the copy ability. The copy ability allowed Kirby to gain certain abilities from inhaling and swallowing different enemies. The team at HAL Laboratory created over 40 abilities, in which 25 would make it into the final game. The reason so many abilities were created was to give the player many different options when it came to replaying the game. And even on top of that, a few mini-games were added just in case the player thought that the main story was still too hard to play through. This installment, being Kirby's Adventure, would ultimately be released in Japan on March 23, 1993 for the Famicom, and May 1st in North America for the NES. The game would receive much positive reviews saying that it was an improvement to Kirby's original debut on the Game Boy. The new sizing, variety, and most of all the new copy ability is what made the game's originality receive great upstanding. And thus, till this day, the whole copy ability has become a staple to Kirby's identity. He's the pink blob that can fly, inhale, and copy an enemy's skill set. Kirby has become an icon in Nintendo's franchises, and it's all due to his simplistic design. Coming from just the idea of being an easy game for kids, turned into one of the most popular video game characters ever. The idea of just a simple blob managed to spawn so much in the Kirby series that it could be a bit difficult following all the lore. It's what Nintendo is known for, really. Their fans have such a deep connection rooted to childhood memories that it allows all these characters to be remembered for decades to come. And till this day, HAL Laboratory is still one of the main developers for the Kirby series. Over 30 years later, and the pink little puffball is still flying and inhaling everything in his way to bring peace to this world.